D-Struggles coming at you with another one. Oh yeah. And today we're going to be changing an airbag clock spring on our 98 Chevrolet Camaro. But first, we got to yank one out of the salvage Monte Carlo over here. And luckily, the key is on the floorboard. It's going to make it a hell of a lot easier. And that's the key, all right. Well, after a mild amount of effort, we got her out. Back to the house. We're back at the house with the clock spring. So the whole reason why I pulled the clock spring out of a Monte Carlo, and I knew that it would work in this car, I looked up on the Pick and Pull website first off to see if they even had a Camaro, in their inventory that I can take the clock spring out of. That clock spring is only from, I think, 93 to 98, so I would have had to find a Camaro from 93 to 98 to actually even pull the clock spring out of that would work. And they had no Camaros at all at the Pick and Pull. So after that, looking on their website for the Camaro and Firebirds to match it up, they didn't have any, so I went on eBay. When I got on eBay, I found prices for I think $180 something to $200 for a clock spring, which I was like, oh crap, And then I started thinking they had to make this clock spring and put it in other model Chevys, Buicks, Oldsmobiles. Every other GM has to at least have one model that had this same clock spring in it. So that's pretty much what I did. Here at the top of your eBay listings, when you're doing car parts, it says select a vehicle. So this is pretty much how I figured out. And then these are some of the vehicles that I've worked on looking up. But it goes enter a vehicle down here. So this is a 98. So we entered the year 98. Oh, 99 don't work. Entered the year 98. We went down to Chevy. Now, we know it works on the Camaro, so we're not going to pick that one. So I started picking other, like I tried Cavalier, I tried Suburban, and then I think I tried the Malibu. I don't think, and then I clicked on Monte Carlo here. And when I clicked on it, I hit done, apply, and then at the top it says this fits your vehicle. So that's how I figured out that this clock spring would work in the Camaro over here. Now, if somebody else knows another way, please let me know. That'd be great, because I found this out by just fluke accident. Like, I just took a chance and was like, hey, let me type in other vehicles in the select the vehicle and see if it, something matched up, and it actually did. So if someone knows another way to cross-reference auto parts to figure out if certain parts work in other cars an easier way, please let me know. I'd be very much appreciated. Instead of $180 to $200 and something, I got this at the Pick and Pull for $27.85. Now, this is an untested part. This could cause me trouble. On top of the $27.65 I spent, I also spent probably about $10 or $15 in gas getting there and back. So also keep that in mind. But yeah, hopefully this thing works. It's an untested part, and I can return it and exchange it, but they do no cash refunds. So I'm hoping it's gonna work. So I'm gonna explain the hackery that I attempted before I even decided to get this replacement clock spring here. So why I even needed a new clock spring is because I bought a GT Grant steering wheel that I wanted to put on this car, and I ended up just snipping this wire here to remove the clock back, 3 years ago, so I can put the steering wheel on, because I was impatient and I didn't want to go through the process of taking it out properly. So that's pretty much why I needed a new one. And then over the course of 2019, we swapped out the GT Grant wheel out of the 98 into the 99 here, because we twin turboed it. And I thought that I can take the steering wheel, the airbag, and the clock spring out of the 99 and put it in the 98, but I was wrong, because I guess in between 98 and 99, they switched the airbag components. The plugs were different. Well, the steering wheel was the same. The plugs for the clock and the airbag were different. But so my Yankee redneck ass ended up trying to think around this so I didn't have to buy a new clock. So what I ended up doing was the wiring harness that went from the clock to the car harness, the pins in it were the same. So I ended up depinning it out of the 99 so I can put this into the 98, so the clock from the 99 would plug into the 98. But once I got it all together, it didn't work. The airbag light stayed on. So then I thought I could change the airbag sensor, so I took this out of the 99. But when I got the center console out, because that's where this sits, I noticed that the plug was different. The plug for the 99 and the 98 are different, just like, well, of course, just like the plug for the clock was different from the 98 to the 99. But, you know, I was trying anyway. I figured maybe it would be the same. So then I actually wanted to know what was in one of these clocks. So I ended up popping all the little plastic rivets out. I opened it up, and pretty much the way it works is there is a ribbon in here. See the ribbon wire? And this is looped up in here in a way that it doesn't get twisted, bent, crimped, or anything with these little roller wheels. This way when you turn your wheel, it all moves around safely without getting ripped or broken. So once I figured that out, that there was no diodes or any kind of other electrical components in here, I ended up resoldering back on the harness part that I cut off originally back 3 years ago when I put that steering wheel on. And I ended up depinning again the other side of this connector out of the 98 from the 99 one, putting the 98 one back in. And then with this all pulled out of the clock piece, I plugged the airbag back in and tested it, and the light actually went off with it like this. So I knew everything still worked fine. So then I thought, cut the wire off of this ribbon where it plugs into the airbag, and then solder that back on to the 99 clock so I can plug the 98 airbag into the 99 clock. I don't know, like I said, hackery. So that's what I ended up doing, chopping this end off that goes into the 99 airbag, and I chopped off the 98 plug off of the 98 clock, soldered it onto the 99 clock, and then put the 98 airbag, hooked it up to the 99 clock, and it still didn't work. And that's pretty much where I'm at now. Now, I don't recommend to anybody to be messing with airbags out of the car with the airbag wiring, because you can accidentally deploy one and hurt yourself. So yeah, don't be messing around with airbags like that. I mean, I was being really, really safe. I mean, I had my hood on. I was really scared that I was going to deploy it by swapping wiring around like that and everything. Like literally, I had my head down and was reaching in from the passenger side to actually turn the key on when I actually had it hooked up, because I was afraid it was going to blow out at me. But yeah, either way, let's get started. First thing you're going to want to do is get this steering wheel sideways. This way you can get the bolts out of the back of the wheel that hold the airbag in easily. Next, they say disconnect your battery. You're going to want to remove these bottom panels, which I already got it out. But yeah, there's a screw there, another one on that side, and then two on the bottom, one on each side. Then you're going to remove that. And then you got this little plastic cover piece also after you get that off, which has two fasteners holding it in, one on this side and one on that side. And then you just pull this out. And then once you get those two panels out, before you even pull the airbag out, you're going to want to disconnect the clock spring wire harness that goes to the airbag. This way you know there's no power going to it at all, because from what I read, the airbag module holds power in it, and even though the battery is disconnected, it could still set the airbag off if you're taking it out improperly or something like that. So yeah, it's always good just to disconnect this first before messing around with the airbag. Now this airbag has 4 screws holding it in, 2 on each side. So we're going to be using this driver here with a, what is that, a T30 Torx bit. And yeah, you can just get in here, get each one out, and the same thing on the bottom. This is why we turn the wheel sideways, so we can get to these Torx bits, screws easier. All right, now we got the 4 Torx out, so now we're gonna remove the airbag. Now, after that, we gotta disconnect this wire here, pull out the little, I guess, safety clip, and bam. Now this is the hackery I was talking about, how I spliced in the 98 into the 99 clock spring that I got into the 98. Now the next step is disconnecting the horn. Now typically this little tube here with the wiring in it, you usually just push it in, turn it, and pull it out. But because of these older cars, the inner tube part that this slides into gets brittle and cracks and breaks. So I ended up gluing this into there, and then I ended up crimping on these ends so I can just plug the horn in this way. This way I didn't have to replace that tube in there. Now after we got the horn disconnected, we have to take this nut off here. I got a 13/16 socket on my ratchet here. Got that cracked loose. Spin this off by hand. And then the next thing you're gonna need is a steering wheel puller. Now I have this old one here that I inherited from my dad, so we're gonna be using this. But you can go to AutoZone if you have a local AutoZone. They do a loaner tool program thing they got there, where you give them the full amount of the tool and then they loan it to you. I think you get like 30 days with it, and then when you're done, you bring it back and they just refund you the full amount of the tool. So this way, you know, you got to lay the money out, but you don't have to pay for the tool. Or you can go to Harbor Freight and pick you up a real cheap one, which will work just the same. Now once you got the tool all set up on there, you just crank her, and then she'll eventually pop off. Oh yeah, she cracked. And that's how you get your steering wheel off. Bada bing, bada boom. Oh, also another thing to note when you're taking the wheel out, be very careful of these horn buttons, because this is another thing that gets very brittle and breaks. You know, over time they get weathered and really dry. Now this steering wheel came off of the white Camaro over there, which I'm pretty sure that was garage kept before I had got it, and that's why this one isn't weathered and all broken. But every one I took apart at the pick and pull over the years, yeah, these were always broken in, because I had tried to find just these horn pieces for this car over the years, and I couldn't. The next step, getting the clock spring out. Now we got to take out this little clip in here that's holding the clock spring onto the steering column, and we're going to use a pair of these bad boys. All right, got that out. Now remember, definitely remember to put this back in. It's vitally important that this goes back in, because that holds down the clock spring. And if this isn't in there and this jolts, it could hit the wire and then set off the airbag. So, all right, now we got that out. Now we can maneuver this out of here. And you can see down here, you got your wire. So, gotta make sure it ain't gonna get snagged on anything when you're pulling from up here. Now you're only gonna get so far and it's gonna stop, because we're gonna have to go down there now. But we can go ahead and remove our horn wires out of here. And then we also have this little spring washer. This is another thing you gotta make sure you put back in too, this spring washer. Because that's what puts the tension in between the clock spring and that clip we had just taken off that holds the clock spring to the steering column. Then we got to make some room in here, so we got to get this plate out now. To get this plate out, see that ring right here? We got to get that little clip out. But right now the tab piece is in a bad position because it's right up against this piece of brittle plastic, like I was saying, that I had to glue the horn wire into. So yeah, we got to compress this in. You can see when I push on it, it moves in and out. So I don't have the tool for this, so I'm gonna have to wing it. Now I'm sure they make a tool for this, but this is how I'm doing it. Got this piece of wood here, and I'm putting against my chest, and I got this piece of angle iron here that I'm pushing up against my chest, and we are pushing it up against here on one end, and I'm pushing in, and I'm pushing on this side with this hand, and then I'm going to be using the hand I'm holding the camera with right now to readjust the clip in here so the opening part ain't up against the plastic little tube here for the horn so I don't break it, which I've already done that. Now what I'm going to do is try to push the top of this round piece in here with my thumb right above where the clip end is, and hold it as I jam the straight pick in here and pull it out. Just the end anyway right now. Alright, got the end out. Alright, so I swapped out the straight pick for the one with the bent end here, and I got it, you know, holding the clip end up about a quarter way around. So now what I'm doing is I'm taking the straight pick and I'm just slowly popping it out, going all the way around. And yeah, I got it to about up to here right now, so I'm gonna keep going at it, and yeah, I should be able to pop that out like this. So I got the clip out of its groove. Now it's sitting in the groove where the locking clip goes for the clock spring. So I'm pretty much just taking this bent pick and holding it up against the plate and kind of giving it a twist. See how it popped it over? And then I'm going to do the same process of just working that around, trying to get it off with a, I don't know, a screwdriver or something. Awesome. I was able to finagle this out without bending it up or damaging it. Now we have to slide this plate out. Then we slide off the horn mechanism piece. Take that off. And we're gonna have to grab a Phillips and take this screw out for the turn signal. So we got the screw out for the turn signal, and then you gotta pop out this little bracketing piece that goes from the handle to the mechanism in here. Just take that out, put it to the side. Then we have 3 T20 Torx screws, one here, one down there. And then once you get those two off, you gotta click this down to get that third one. After you remove the Torx screws, you're gonna need a Phillips screwdriver to remove the flasher switch here. All right, once you get those Torx screws out, you can see it's loose now. Now before we go messing with this and trying to pull it out, we have to disconnect some wiring harnesses under the steering column here. 2 in particular. This one right here, which I unplugged already, and then this little one here. And this is the purpose of doing this, is to straighten these wires out, because we have to pull this plastic right here, this plastic sheathing here that covers the wires. We're gonna have to pull this out and push it down. Yeah, see, I have the plastic sheathing piece pushed down through there already. You can see it sticking out here, and then I'm just pulling this out. Yeah, also be careful when you're pulling this out that you don't get snagged on one of your ignition wires here and rip it or yank it out. Now that we got these wires down here exposed at the bottom of the steering column, so you have this one set of wiring for something, and then there's another set here, and then we got the yellow one for the clock spring. So what we're going to do is wiggle these wires and figure out which one is the blinking mechanism, which there we go. So then we're just going to give a little tug and pull it forward, and then try to yeah, just maneuver this out of the way here so we can pull our clock spring wire through. All right, so the wiring harness that's actually attached to the blinker mechanism here, you actually want to disconnect that one too under here. I noticed it makes it easier. So in here, it's right here, this one, and it's actually hooked onto the steering column itself. thing here. Right here, pretty much. I know you can't see it that well, but yeah, this slides down into it, and pretty much you unplug this plug here that goes into here, and then you push this straight up, and it releases it, so you can move it around. And then you can push these wires forward. So this can actually come out a whole lot more. See how I can get it out more? Yeah, now since I did that, yeah, this is a whole lot more free. So you can see there the wire. I can actually push it in and out freely. Before it was binding in there because I had this, I guess, stretched with tension on it. So here's the tricky part, is trying to fish that end up through here without actually taking this apart. Because we can actually take this all apart, but yeah, that's more of the project to get out. You're gonna have to disconnect the ignition there and pull the ignition out, and then take those 3 bolts out, and for this plastic piece, and also disconnect this blinker switch here. But I'm not gonna do that. What I'm gonna do is to make this end a little bit smaller down here, which I already did. I stuck a little screwdriver in there and it released this, so we can take this piece off, and now it makes this smaller so we can have an easier time fishing this up through the column here. And so yeah, I'm gonna give her a little pull. Like that, and then get it popped up in there. Pull some more. Now we got it. See, now it's snagged in here. So, yeah. Let's try pulling this up a little, and look at that. You angle up the steering column and it released it and let it slide right out. So we're gonna put this back in the same way we took it out. We're gonna keep the steering column angled up. Now, I really should have externally tested this thing first before I'm installing it, but hell, we're making a video, so whatever. If it works, it works. If it don't, it don't. I'll just have to do all this again. But yeah, I went ahead and I took that little yellow clip off to make the end smaller so we can fish it down. Yeah, gonna go take this sticker off here. This way it doesn't give us any trouble and get snagged as well. Talking about this sticker, to help avoid personal injury, follow GM service manual procedures. Probing can inflate airbag or damage air or SIR system. Yeah, I also, when in my research, I read that you shouldn't do any kind of ohms testing or anything like that on the module, because yeah, you can inflate the airbag and set it off and cause yourself some injury. Sliding this connector down, just trying to push it through, is damn near impossible. So what I did was I ran this other wire, thinner one, through, and then I wrapped it around and then taped it to this end. So this way, all I got to do now is just pull this, and I'm hoping that that'll guide it through nice and easy. Oh yeah, look at that. Right through, no problem. So that's a good little technique for you. Now it's time to put everything back together. So yeah, I got this slid back in here, the blinker mechanism. I put the 3 Torx screws back in, tightened them up, and the hazard blinker switch here, got that tightened back up too with the Phillips. Now we got to get the blinker bracket back on there with the Phillips head. Now you can go ahead and sit the bracket back in there and get the Phillips head started, and then hook in the notch into the blinker switch itself. Once you get it, you know, just sitting in there, like bam, just like that, and then hold it in and then screw it down. All right, give it a little test. That's all working. Now we have to reinstall the horn piece, and then we got to fish the horn wires through this metal plate and then get that back on there. Then we got to put this feisty little mother lover back on. So we got that clip over the hump past the first notch, and now we just have to recompress this metal plate to get that locking ring seated into place to hold this down. So how we're going to compress this now is, I found this way to do this real quick to make it easier. Is this big washer, these 2 sockets, and the nut that holds the steering wheel on. Yeah, I was looking around my garage trying to figure out somehow to compress this, and I found this big ass washer in my bolt bin. So, and then the 2 sockets out of my set were the same length, and they fit in here perfectly to where I can compress this down. See how I have it compressed now? And now I just have to slide that ring back in. Boom, and that's it. So yeah, you can get one of these big old washers at the hardware store, and you can do it like that. Now, even though I could have used this to take that ring out, I think it's still easier to take it out the way I did, by pushing this up and popping out the one side and then working it around to get that out. Because with this pushed into place now, this actually moves around, so it's kind of hard to get under here and pop it out while it's moving around like that. This not compressed, it's kind of locked into place, and when you push up just above the tab, it kind of just reveals the tab, just the one. So when you pop it out, you can actually let it all go, and that will still be sticking out because of the pressure on it. And then you can, you know, work it around, and then eventually just pops out. Next, we got to put this spring washer back in, like I said, very important. And then we're gonna fish the horn wires back through the clock spring, and then we got to put this locking ring back on. Which this one also, you got to compress this in, so push in once you get it set on there, and then boom, she locks right in. But also I'd move it around just to make sure that it's in there correctly. Yeah, it seems pretty good. All right, we got the steering wheel back on. We had to run the horn wires back through and the airbag wire. Put the bolt on, tighten it down, reconnect the horn, plug the airbag in, put the safety clip back in the airbag harness here, and now we're going to put the airbag back on and put our T30 Torx screws back into it. And then once you get your airbag all tightened down, you get back under here, under the steering column, and reconnect all your wiring harnesses for your ignition and the airbag itself. All right, and then you reconnect the battery, which we did already. So now we're gonna give her a whirl, and I'm hoping that clock spring works. Let's see, the airbag light's blinking, and it should stay off after 7 shots. And it did. Awesome. Sweet. The untested pick and pull clock spring for the airbag worked great. Awesome. Now we just got to figure out the ABS in-op, which it can be the ABS sensors and the front wheel hubs, which one of the studs snapped off one of them, so I'm probably just going to replace both of them anyway because they're pretty cheap on eBay. So hopefully that'll remedy the problem on that, because I am fixing this car up so my son can drive it. So I want it to be safe and everything to be functioning properly. But that's it for this one. Thanks for watching. Hope this helps somebody. Peace and love, and I'll see you on the next one.